Hi, and welcome back to another Stampin' on Friday episode. Today I'm going to be making a tag. I decided this year that I was going to make all of my holiday tags instead of buying the little stickers. I decided it'd be fun to use some of the products I have and make some of my own tags, especially for those for some really special gifts. I want to definitely, have some really nice tags on them. I'm going to be using this Lost and Found Christmas My Mind's Eye paper collection for today's tag, and I love this paper. So I'm going to be using this striped paper here, but it's got some really nice vintage looking patterns in there. So I cut out two pieces. They're 1.5 inches, and they're just I just cut them apart. I really didn't pay attention to how long they were because I'm going to be adhering them to this piece of fine linen cardstock from Paper Tray Ink. And I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that down, and I'm going to die cut this using my, I believe this is number 4 tags. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll have a link to all the supplies I'm using over on my blog, and a link that if you're here on YouTube, I'll link that down in the description of my video. But I'm starting out putting my paper, adhering it right to the bottom of my cardstock, and I'm going to put it on the front and the back, and it's only because I want these pieces to be the same on both sides when I die cut, but you'll see what I mean. So I'm just lining it up at the bottom. So see, now they're both on the same, they're even on the same side. So I'm going to die cut my tag, and I've got my Cuttlebug out, and I've got a couple of things I'm going to die cut. So we're going to start off with my A plate. I'm going to put my B plate down, my paper, I'm going to go this way with this, and then my tag, and I'm putting it close to the bottom as I can. And the reason why, another reason why I'm putting my pattern paper on first too, is because this cuts out, or doesn't really cut out, but it gives it an embossed look right around the edge, and I want to make sure that's on my pattern paper too. So just go ahead and cut this out. Okay, so that's my tag. I'm going to pop out the top there. And then I also have, with this tag, also comes a little tag top. So I'm going to use that too. And I'm going to cut that out in craft cardstock. So this is also from Paper Tray Ink. So I'm going to cut this out, as well as the angel from the Love Lives Here holiday collection. So again, using the A and B plate, my pattern paper, and then my dies face down. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So for my pattern paper for my wings, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm just cutting out the wings, so I don't need to really use a whole piece of pattern paper. So just want to make sure that the wings are on the pattern paper. And another thing I'm cutting out is also from that same collection is this little star. So I'm going to set this down while I'm cutting out. Okay, so I have all my pieces cut out. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some Tattered Rose Distress ink, and I'm just going to go ahead and ink the edges of my tag. And I'm going to do front and back on this. So that was the front. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the back. Okay, I'll set that aside for now. And I'm actually going to go ahead now and use some Walnut Stain Distress ink. And then I'm just going to lightly go on the edges. I'm not really going too far into the cardstock. I'm just really going very lightly across the edges. And again, I'm going to do front and back on this. So this is the front side. Okay, and then I'm also going to distress the other parts to this. I'm going to do the wings and my tag, and I'm not going to go and do the angel's body. I'm just going to leave that the way it is. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back, and we'll start putting our tag together and do some stamping. Okay, so I went ahead and inked all the edges to everything else, and now I'm going to go ahead and start stamping. Now, the Love Lives Here stamp set, this is the Love Lives Here holiday stamp set, comes with the angel body and the angel wings, but I'm just going to use the angel body. And I normally have not a hard time, but I'm not perfect at lining things up, so I thought this time I would use my Stampin' Majig, and I haven't used this in a long time. But the first thing I'm going to do is take some removable adhesive and just put my angel down on my mat. And let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see what I'm doing here. So I'm going to start off with my Stampin' Majig, and it comes with this piece of kind of a real thick plastic. And what you do is, and I'm not going to stamp on my angel, but what you do is you take your Stampin' Majig and then your piece of film, and just put your piece of film right in the center, or right in the corner of your Stampin' Majig. And I have my angel right here, so I'm going to go ahead and ink that up with my Distress ink, and it doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to make sure that's in there nice and evenly. And I just went ahead and stamped that onto my Stampin' Majig. And now what I'm going to do is line that up right onto my die cut piece. Go ahead and put my Stampin' Majig in place. And holding my Stampin' Majig down, I'm going to go ahead and once again ink up my angel stamp. And then I'll stamp my angel right onto my die cut piece. Just like that. So it gives a perfect stamp. So the next thing I'm going to do is just going to take my two craft pieces that cut out with the original image and glue them to my pattern pieces. So I'm just going to use some of my Zig 2A glue, and I'm going to kind of pop it on there by, when you pounce the ink on the on your cardstock, it makes it puddle a little bit more, and it gives you a little time to work with it because it's a little wetter. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that right on there. Do the same thing with my other one. Okay, so I went ahead and put my angel wings together, and now what I'm going to do is just adhere those right to the back of my angel. So I'm going to start off by putting a little adhesive right on the end of the wing, and then I'll line that up right like that. Do the same thing for the other side. So there's my angel. And then that little star that I punched out, I'm just going to take a very small piece of adhesive. I'm just going to use a dimensional adhesive and just cut off a small, and it has to be pretty small because it's a very tiny piece. So I'm just going to cut off a little tiny piece and adhere that to the back of my star. And then that will get put right here in the center of my angel. And then in a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this right to the front of my tag. But first I want to do some stamping on the back, and I want to do a little to and from. So I have this Christmas labels, and it has a to and from, and I already went ahead and stamped that on and put it on my block because I just wanted to make sure it was lined up. But the trick to doing this, to lining it up, is just stamp it out a couple of times on a piece of scrap paper to make sure everything's lined up perfectly. And I'm going to use the Vintage Photo, or yeah, not Vintage Photo, I'm sorry, Walnut Stain Distress ink, and just stamp my to and from right on the back of my tag, just like that. And then I'll go ahead to the front and put my angel down. And for my angel, I'm going to go ahead and use my dimensional adhesive. So I'll just put a couple pieces of dimensional. And put one on each of the wings as well, but towards the inside, because the wings do hang off the tag. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and center my angel right in the center of my tag, just like so. So now I'm just going to take the tag topper, and I popped out the little centers, and this folds right in half, and then it'll go right here on the top of my tag, just like that. So I'm just going to use my Zig 2-way glue again. I'll adhere that right to the top of my tag. And then I'm going to use, because I didn't get to ink the insides, I'm just going to go ahead and ink that up as well. So I used the tattered rose and the walnut stain. And then the last thing I'm going to do is take some of this twine from Paper Tray ink. I'm going to cut off a nice long piece, and then I'm going to fold it in half, and then in half again. And then I have this little loop here on the end. I'll just feed that right through the hole. And then take my end of my twine and just feed that through. And then I can just trim this off. The last thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and add a little bit of diamond stickles right to the center of my star. And that's my tag. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.